All right. How's it going, everyone? I think this is working. It looks like everything's working. Um, let's see. So I don't know if anybody is listening, but you guys, there's also a little chat thing going on. So I don't know if you guys can message this. You should be seeing it on the screen. I'm not really sure how it works, so we'll have to get that figured out as we go. But I'm just going to leave it up there. So if anybody has any questions, you guys can just type in, and hopefully I'll see them in time, and I can slow down and answer your guys' questions. But yeah, so today basically what we're building is we're going to be building this. It's a CRUD application using Context API. So we're going to be taking a look at some super important things. Hey, there we go. We got a test. All right. Hi, Marlon. I see you. Um, oh, I guess I should hit record, huh? Let's start recording. I hope this doesn't slow down everything. Um, okay. All right. Looks like we're recording. Okay. Cool. Oh, Marlon's still sending some tests. I see you, Marlon. um, okay. Yeah. So just to reiterate, what we're going to be building is a CRUD application using React and the Context API. So this is just a pretty simple little application. Doesn't really do anything other than just add some users and delete users and edit them. So CRUD is a very important thing to understand in programming. You need to kind of understand how to create, read, update, and delete things from your website. So yeah, here's what we're going to be building. So basically just enter a little name. Let's enter my dog's name. Cool. We call her Poochie. Poochie girl. There we go. Call her Poochie girl. So you add that in there. Oh, this is also my girlfriend's rapper name right here, Little Taco. And this is my pirate nickname, Junior Mint. So yeah, that's always fun. So yeah, cool. There we go. We got it. It showed up. So we were able to create. Well, technically, we're also reading as well because we're reading all the things that we just created. Now let's go ahead and edit. So we click edit, jumps over here, and let's say we just wanted to do it lowercase. Maybe put a space in there, and there we go. Just did an update. So update, everything's looking good, and a delete. Cool. So that's basically what we're going to be building today. Yeah, so let's jump right in. And I do have my notes. I do apologize. I'm a little bit nervous. So I wanted to have kind of my notes over here so that I could like reference back to them just in case I get a little bit lost. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is just a basic React app. We're going to be using Code Sandbox as well too, so I can share this link with everybody and you guys can kind of follow along, or well, actually I guess I could just I don't know, can I just post it in here? Does that work? Hey, I don't know if anybody's seeing that, but there you go. So yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I'll periodically kind of check and just make sure everything's going okay with the live stream, but let me get my notes up and we will commence. So first things first, we need to add a couple of dependencies. So dependencies in React, I think everybody is kind of familiar. Starting to get a little bit of hype, I guess. That's awesome. I'm so excited. I'm so excited and nervous. This is the first time I've really like kind of done like an official live stream. So yeah, a little bit nervous, but I hope I sound okay. I can't hear myself. So yeah, but we'll just keep cruising. All right, so first things first, we need to add a couple of dependencies. Like I said, dependencies are actual libraries and packages that kind of go into making an application. So let's go ahead and get started here. We're going to need a couple of them. First things first, there's one that I use, and that is called ant-d. Ant-d is just basically it's just a library of it's a UI library, and I kind of find it really easy to use and easy to maintain. So I like to drop that in there. I don't use all of it. I think that this pulls the entire package in, so you guys will probably see some errors as we go, but we are just going to ignore those. Another one we're going to do, I prefer to use SCSS, so we're going to include Node Sass here, just so that we can render our SCSS. Oh, it's thinking. I don't know what it wants. right, let me double check the live stream, make sure everything's going well. Okay, cool. We're still recording, still streaming. All right, that looks good. I'm not seeing anything in the live chat, but that's okay. I didn't really expect anybody to be in here, so. All right, cool. The next thing that we need to have installed is React DOM, React Router DOM, React, Node Sass, and Ant-D. I think we're good, actually. I think that's pretty much everything we needed. So we just need to add those two. So Ant-D and Node Sass for this project to kind of get started. I also just did like the create React app kind of bare bones thing in Code Sandbox. So if you guys wanted to do a fresh one, or you guys can copy the link there. But yeah, just go ahead and create a fresh create React app thing going on in there, and then you can follow along if you'd like. Right on. So we are going to, well, first things first, I like to start and kind of switch everything over to SCSS just so I'm not confused, and then we're going to make a couple of files, or we're going to make a couple of folders. So let's go ahead and start changing some of this stuff over here. So SCSS, cool, wow, amazing. Hold your breath, people. Right on, cool. Now that we got that out of the way, let's set up some files. Folders, I keep saying files. Well, we're going to set up files and folders. But first things first, let's go ahead and make a components folder. Components. Cool. Next thing we need to make is going to be a context folder. We also will need to make a folder for views. So these are things that we land on, that we have a view. Oh, Marlon asks, do you need Babel or Webpack independency when working on Code Sandbox? I don't think so, but we will definitely find out. Oh, I don't know what that was. That was weird. Is the live stream still on? Let's check. Looks like it. I think everything is going well. A little concerned why that just dropped like that. That was weird. And it didn't save my files. Uh-oh. Hopefully everything's okay. It's all right. We're gonna keep forging on. Okay, so let's try and do this again. So we needed to make a views folder. Uh-oh, this is weird. Let me refresh the page. Oh, and then they came back. Alrighty. Maybe Code Sandbox wasn't the best choice for this. That's okay. Oh no, Marlon, it says your question was retracted. Don't retract your questions. That's a good question. Yeah, post your question back. I don't know if you have it copied. Okay, cool. Well, let's keep moving forward. So we've got our three things here. So we need to also make a well, let's hold off. Let's wait. I usually make like a SCSS folder to kind of keep everything in, but for this project, I think we'll just kind of keep it simple like this. So in here, we need to make a couple of forms. So we are going to make an add form .js, and we need to make a edit form .js. Cool, simple. I'm going to skip context for now because we're going to dive into that first. For the views, I think I set it up with just a dashboard. Let me double check. Yeah, so we have three components in here. The first one is a welcome component, so this is just kind of like a header banner type thing that I had typed up. So let's go ahead and just, I'll go ahead and type this up. So first thing, we need to import React from React. And since it's just a view component, it's just going to be super simple. There's nothing really in it. This is not the right folder, or it's not the right file. I need to be in here, and we need to call this welcome.jsx. I call views JSX files. I don't know why. It just makes a little bit more sense to me in my head. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so import React from React. Cool. Done. No, I'm just kidding. Now this is where I like to just kind of import some things from ant.d. So I'm going to import the row. Whoa. Row. No, not that. And column from, oh, that's why. Look at that. I know you guys are just screaming at your screens right now. Like, fix that. And we're going to import this from ant.d. And once again, ant.d is just a library. So ant design. And it gives you access to all these components. So this is my preferred one to use. There's many others, but I just find this one, for some reason, it just makes a lot more sense to me. And this is kind of where I borrow some of the buttons and certain things. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and keep rolling with that. All right, you know what? We don't need this view for now. I'm going to close that. Okay, cool. So we got that. We also are going to have, okay, so let's just go ahead and set this up. So const welcome equals fat arrow. All right, so now we're going to return our little message. Okay, so first things first, we need to create a row because this is going to be a row. I have some SCSS on here, but I'm going to try and do it without it, and then I might have to double back. So we're going to set up a column. This is just a small little message in here, so let's do an H3 that says, welcome to CRUD with context API live stream. Why not? Cool. There's that. And then just a little description. So application built using React and context. Sure. Might change that later, but that's all right. So go ahead and export this now. So let's export default. Welcome. Wow. I hope you guys are buckled in because this one's a beaut. All right. Cool. So we got that. Now let's go ahead and make another file, and this is going to be our dashboard view. So our dashboard is just kind of going to hold everything in it. This is going to be like the base, for our application. It's pretty much what you're going to see the whole time. So we need to go ahead and import React. We're going to need a couple of our forms. Let's go ahead and import our ant.d. So row column from ant.d. Cool. And we need to import our forms. So I like to leave pretty good comments for myself just so it makes it a little bit easier. So you'll probably see some of these kind of things as we go on. Just basically a comment, nothing crazy, just to keep myself in order. So these are going to be layout components, and we are going to need to import the add form from let's back up a directory, components / add form. And I like to be specific, so I'll actually label that out. And then we need to do an edit form. So I missed that. Here we go. Cool. Edit form. And it's from the same location. Right on. Cool. So now we need to make our dashboard view. So dashboard equals fat arrow function. Cool. And just so we don't forget, let's go ahead and export default dashboard. Okay, cool. Right on. It's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and get this built out really quick just so it doesn't throw an error. So these here are from ant.d. So these little attributes here that you can kind of plug in. Don't freak out if you don't know what I'm doing. Just go to ant d and take a look at the row component and kind of see some of the things you can pass into it. I don't know why it says align middle. I wish they had used align center. It's kind of misleading, confusing. Okay, so again, these are going to come from ant design, so make sure that you kind of double back if you don't know what I'm doing here, and take a look at those components that they have. I wish there was a way to check if everything was still working without having to jump over and check all the time. Yeah, I don't know. It's okay. We're just going to keep cruising. Alright. So now that we got our column going, let me get my notes back. I messed that up. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we got our column, span of 12. There's going to be an H2 in there. This is going to be called add user. Add users. I guess we should do it plural. Now here, we're going to make a note for ourselves. So right here we need to conditionally render the edit form or the add form. So I'm going to put that in for myself, and then once we start getting everything connected, we'll double back on that. Okay, cool. Let's see here. So let's do another column, and this is going to be our span equals 12. All right. I wonder why it's mad right here. It's because there's no contact. Expect an assignment. It's okay. We'll keep moving. Oh, I see why. Because we didn't return this. Ha. That's why it was mad. Don't be mad. Cool. Let's move that up. There we go. All right. Cool. So inside of our column here, this one just needs to say all users or view users, current users. So let's do another H2. We'll call this, we'll just call it current users for now. Or we'll call it contact book. Let's call it that, contact book. Right, so it's like a little contact book or a little address book. This will also render a table component that we need to make. So let's just plug that in. So we're going to say render our just like user table. Yeah, that's fine. Render our user table here. I like to kind of write this little pseudocode just to kind of keep myself on track. So let's keep cruising. So this one's already kind of said and done. That's just a welcome screen. Might need some SCSS on that in a second. We need an add form, an edit form. We also needed a user table. Okay, so let's go ahead and write up our user table. User table is going to be pretty simple, nothing too wild. But let's go ahead and import React from React. Cool, first things first. I'm going to skip the context import for now. Actually, I wonder if we should double back on this. Yeah, let's double back on this. Let's hold off for just a second with the user table. It's a little more involved than I remembered, but yeah, we'll double back on that, and then we'll make that import down here. Now into why you guys are probably here. We need to make a context. Now, one of the problems that I always had with context is it wasn't really like global. It's very specific. So I kind of thought to myself, okay, if Redux has a global version, how come we can't do that with context? And I started doing some research, and it turns out you can. Now, I'm not saying this is like the be-all, end-all, like everybody needs to do their context this way. I don't know. However, I do think this is a pretty efficient way. And I think that for illustration purposes of what context and reducers do, I think this is a brilliant example. Now, one thing I forgot to mention, this project is inspired by two of my favorite developer resources. First and foremost is like the dev community. I kind of love jumping on there and seeing all the creative things that people come up with. So yeah, there's a his name is Pabudu. I'm gonna massacre this, but it's Rana Singh. Rana Singh. So I found the way that I set up this reducer, I found through Dev.to and a post that he had created, kind of talking about this context example with reducers. The other resource is a developer named Tania Rascia or Rascia. So I posted both of their links in there. Go ahead and show them some love. Check it out. They have some really, really good resources. If you're not a member of the Dev.to community, I definitely recommend it. But yeah, so that's who kind of inspired this project today. But let's go ahead and continue. So we are going to start on the behemoth that is the context. So over here I had called the context just context. I think that was kind of confusing, so I'm going to call it user context over here. All right, cool. So let's jump right into it. Now context is a pretty high level thing, so if you're still following along, hang in there. This might be just something you kind of copy down. I don't expect you to understand the mechanics of what's going on, as I'm still trying to understand the mechanics of what's going on. But let's kind of dive right in there. So we're going to import React, and we're going to need a couple of provided React tools. So we're going to go ahead and get create context out of here, and this is just the general way that we create context using React. We're going to grab use reducer in here because we are making a custom hook down at the bottom, and we will need that. And then we are going to use context. We need to import all of these from React. Oops, that needs to be that. And let's get right into it. So first things first, we need to create context. But we're not going to stop there. So let's go ahead and export const. What do we call this? User context. User context equals create context. All right, cool. Now here's kind of where the interesting thing is. This is the way I kind of built this was with Redux in mind. So instead of using Redux here, we are using context. However, we do need a default state or an initial state. So let's go ahead and get that written up. So initial state, I kind of wrote a little bit crazy. So I really wanted this to be like a global state. So I included a couple of things that are necessary for our application to work. So first things first is some users. Right, so this is going to just be an object with a couple of, this can be an array with objects inside of it. Excuse me. Bam, there we go. All right, so the first one is going to have an ID. We are going to have a user with an ID of 1, name. I don't know, what should we use? Let's use like funny animals. So we'll call this a quokka. That's my favorite animal. So we got quokka, and we're going to have a username, and it's going to be cutest ever. Yeah, sure. Camel case like that. Why not? Let's go ahead and make another one. This is going to be ID2 name, and let's do my dog because I don't want her to feel left out just because I think quokkas are the cutest ever. And her username is going to be, I don't know what her username is. We'll call her Cutie Poopy. Cutie Poopy. Or should I do it like that? Cutie Poopy. Yeah, CIE. Why not? Okay, cool. Yeah, she's camel cased as well. Alright, so now that we have our two users, we need to set an editing property for our form with the default state of false. That needs to be a comma. And then we need to create a user form, and this is the form that the add user and the edit user are both going to interact with here. So they just need to be a basic generator, more or less, for our users. So we need to have an ID of null, and we need to have a name, which is just set to an empty string, and then we're going to have a username, which is also set to an empty string, because that's going to be the default initial state of those forms, is that blank blank form there. Alrighty, that's good. That's dealt with. Now actions are something that are used by the reducer. So we're going to start jumping into that right now. We're going to write a couple of these. So let's kind of jump right into it. We are going to do export const, and this is going to be add user, add user, add underscore user, and you'll see why we do this in just a moment, but bear with me. Okay, so the next one we need to write is going to be an edit user. So let's just do this lazy way, edit user, cool. The next one that we're going to do is submit edit, submit edit. That is supposed to be capitalized. There we go. All right, cool. Oops. Still had the two. The next one is going to be remove user. Remove user. Remove user. Okay, cool. Let's do another one. Export const. This is going to be toggle edit. So this is how we are going to conditionally render our edit or add. So toggle edit equals toggle underscore edit. Okay, let's do our, I think I got rid of that one actually. Sorry, let me double check. Yeah, I did get rid of that one. So sorry, I'm just checking my notes here and making sure I don't mess this up. So let's do another one here, export const, and this is our final one, which is going to be a form reset. Super fun stuff. Form reset. All right, cool. So we got that. Now, what we need to make are some action creators. These are actually the kind of start. We can do several things in here. We can destructure and pass in state into our reducer. Otherwise, it's a little bit tricky to do that, but with the action creators, it makes it a lot easier. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So let's kind of get these guys going. So we have quite a few of them. Actually, one for each of those actions up above. So let's do add user. All right, so add user is going to take in a user that we're going to pass from the add user form, as you might have guessed, but we need to return, and this is the telltale sign that you're dealing with a reducer here. We're going to pass in a type of add underscore user, and then we need to give it a payload of user. So the reason why we kind of have it like this is because once it hits the reducer function, it is going to do a check on the type, and if it's this, it's going to do something else. You'll see when we get down there a little bit further, but right now let's continue on and write all of our action creators. So I have these kind of out of order here, but let's do edit user next. Sorry, I don't have them out of order here. I have them out of order in my notes. Okay, so edit user is going to take in a couple of different things, and I was destructuring them here to be ID, name, and username. You'll notice those are basically the same things here, because when we have an edit, we are going to pass those values into the form. All right. So let's go ahead and make this a function. Cool. Now we need to return a type of edit user. Yep, cool. And then we need to pass in those items, so we're going to pass in ID, name, and username. Cool, looking good. So let's make our next one. This is going to be submit user. So export const submit user equals. This just takes in a change, I believe. Yeah, it just takes in changes. So these are the changes that we're trying to make to this user. So that's all we're going to pass in there. This is going to return a type of submit edit, and it's going to take in those changes. All right, so let's go ahead and set up our final few ones. Export const, we run submit, so let's remove a user. Remove user equals, and on this one all we need is an ID. Yeah, so we're just going to take in an ID here. So let's just take in the ID. Let's create our function here. We are going to return type of remove underscore user, and then we're going to pass in that ID. All right, cool, looking good so far. The next one is toggle edit. So let's do export const toggle edit equals, we're not really passing anything in here because all we're doing is just negating what already exists in the current state. So we need to return a type of toggle edit. Oops. Toggle edit. All right, cool. And that doesn't need anything other than that. Yeah, and then the final one here is going to be basically the same thing as this. So let's just go ahead and copy that, save a little bit of time, and we need to let's do form reset. All right. I don't know why I have that backwards. Should I change that? Is that going to bother anybody? I'll just do it backwards right here. So we'll just say reset underscore form. It's going to bother me. That's who it's going to bother. Right. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and check up on the live stream. Hey, it's Kelly. Hi, Kelly. How's it going? I think that's Kelly from Lambda. I'm not really sure. I think it is. I think you got back from a big trip. I can't wait to hear about it. Okay, cool. Yeah, so everything looks good with the live stream. Right on. Just gonna keep cruising here. So we got all of this stuff going on. So yeah, this was gonna drive me crazy. So let's just do reset form. Cool. Let's change this up here. Let's do reset underscore form. All right, and I think that's all of our action creators dealt with. So let's keep moving here. Now it's kind of the fun stuff, some people would say. Definitely not me. Awesome. Yes, from Lambda. Right on. I'm glad you're joining. I hope I'm doing okay. I can't see anybody else. It's kind of weird doing the live stream, just kind of in a room talking to yourself. It's a little strange. But here we go. We're gonna start the fun part here. This is where we're gonna basically set up Redux with context. So buckle up. That's where the magic happens, as most people say. All right. So we called this user. We're gonna call this user reducer because we called this application. Called this this file the user context. Right on. So let's go ahead and get this guy dealt with, and I will kind of like touch on these as I go. So the state and the action. So this is the current state of the application. So it is basically going to create a copy of this, and it's going to start working with it. As we add things to it, it's going to pull from this, and it's going to add to it, or take away from it, or change things. Like some circumstances, we want this to be true. So the current state will always have a, it'll always match this, in theory, or it's supposed to. So let's keep cruising. So the first things first that we need to do in here is we need to create our switch case. So what that means is it's going to check the action type. Now it's going to start routing to a series of cases. So the first case is obviously going to be add user, right? We don't really need to do anything here other than just kind of put a little colon and then just drop down a line and we can start writing logic. I'm going to go ahead and just do a return state for now, just so I can show you guys how this actually will look. It's mad because it wants a default return. It drives me nuts. It throws all those squiggles on there and it's hard to even see. Okay, so there's a default. Are you happy now? Now let's keep moving forward with our cases. So we have add user, we have an edit user, right? Let's just go ahead and do the same thing here. Return state. And that needs to be a colon, not a semicolon. The next one, actually, let's just speed this up and we'll just copy this. Boom. The next one is going to be, so we have add user, edit user, submit, edit. Submit, edit. That looks terrible. Here we go. Submit, edit. So far everything is just going to return state. That's totally fine. I'll just make a couple of these, save some time. So submit, edit. We need another case for remove user. Cool. We need a toggle underscore edit case, and we need a reset form case. Reset form. Cool. Right on. It's officially the most boring reducer on earth. It doesn't do anything except return state. But that's okay. We're going to go ahead and keep cruising, and then we are going to do a deep dive on that logic in just a second. Alright, well, this is a singular reducer, so let's just do that. Reducer. Now we need to create a provider. The provider is what we're going to wrap around our components that are requiring state. So we will drop this into the index file, well actually into the app, which the app here lives in index, and then we are going to use that to manage our state. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into this. So this is the provider. Okay, cool. So let's do const user provider equals props. I don't think we need that, but let's include it anyway. No, we do need that. Sorry. Alright, cool. So this is where we are going to use the reducer. Contacts. We're changing it to users, so let's do users, and then we are going to take in our dispatch. Dispatch is how we are going to access these right here. Instead of running just functions, we're going to dispatch actions. Then actions will get passed down into this logic here, and they will carry whatever is being provided by the action creator. So it's kind of like a big circle. So it's going to go in. We're going to dispatch a action creator. Action creator is going to take on a payload. The payload is going to deliver down to the reducer, and then it's going to do something. So let's go ahead and do use reducer here. Reducer takes two values. It takes in the reducer that you're using, which in our case is user reducer, and it also takes in the initial state. So this is initial state. All right, cool. And remember, initial state is just this kind of basic object setup that we have going on for our global state. Okay, well, you know what? I should save this just in case anybody is using the code sandbox that I posted in the link. All right, cool. So we got that. So let's say const. Now this is going to do. We're going to do a little bit of destructuring. So we'll say. So we'll call this user data equals and this is going to be both the things from the reducer from above. So this is going to be user and dispatch, and you'll see what I'm doing with this in just a second. Yep, there we go. And then the final thing that we need to do is return a, this is the context now, so we're going to do user context.provider, which is a React method that is going to create the provider for us, and we need to provide it some data through a value, which the value that we are going to pass in is just that user data. You don't have to do this destructuring, you can just drop it in that way, but this makes it a little bit easier to kind of understand what's going on. Cool, so it's going to take that, and then yeah, this is where we are going to spread in the props. Cool, so let's go ahead and just close this off here. Right on, so we got that returned. Now for the crazy stuff. Now we need to write a higher order component. Not a component, I'm sorry, function. Higher order function. This is actually going to take in our user provider and our context, and it's going to apply it. So then all we have to do is we have to call this custom hook. Actually, I could just call this like higher order component function or custom hook. Custom hook. Sure, that works. All right. So we're going to call this use user provider or user context. Okay, so let's do that. Context. Okay, cool. And all this needs to do, sounds crazy, but all it needs to do is return use context, and then it needs to pass in the context. So this is going to take in the user context, just like that. All right. And finally, we need to export those last two items there. So let's do export let's do user provider, and then we need to add the use user context method there, or function that we just wrote. All right, now that is most of our context as Redux type setup built. The final thing that we have to do really is just add the logic in here to make it do these different things. So let's go ahead and dive into that logic really quick. All right, so this was where it might get a little bit muddy, but that's okay. We're gonna go ahead and just make do. All right, so the action dot use, so we need to add a user ID because we're not going to be able to pass in a user ID, so we need to actually add it here. And the way that I chose to do it was doing state dot users dot length, and this is coming from the current state, and then we're just going to add one to it. Right now, what we need to return here is the state spread out. So let's do our object there. We're going to spread in the state. This is just going to create a copy of the current state. Now we need to specify what our new users array looks like. All right, so let's go ahead and add that. And it's going to come in as an object, so we can do it this way. We need to take the current state of all users. So let's do that. And then we need to pass in our new user. So action.user. Pretty simple. So this here, action.user, will now have a ID, and the ID is going to be the length of the array plus 1. So that'll just kind of act as a little ID. I did realize this is a little bit clunky, and I'm sure there's better ways to do it. Like you could probably pass in like UUID and give each user a unique ID. However, I think this is just fine for our purposes. Maybe we'll do that in another repetition that I do of this. All right, now for the crazy stuff. We need to do the edit user. The edit user was pretty tricky. I had the most trouble with this. In fact, I still have a little bit of trouble with this, but that's all right. We're gonna keep doing this until we understand what's really going on. So to edit user, we should first toggle editing, right? Because we want to tell our React application that, hey, we're editing something now. So toggle edit above here. So that will do something. But let's go ahead and keep moving forward with the edit user. So edit user needs to return, let's return the current state. And then what we need to do is we need some way to change each like little action. So that's why we had to destructure this. So user form is now going to change to id equals action.id. Name is going to be action.name. And username is going to be action.username. Okay. So now that's what our user form is going to contain. Yeah, I think that's basically it for the edit user. I'm gonna go ahead and save this and let it kind of refactor and clean itself. Okay, cool. So now submit edit. This is also a fun one. Submit edit also needs to toggle editing because now we are technically done editing. So we've turned it on up there. Now we need to turn editing off down here. Yep, here we are going to return some state again. This is the current state of the application. So state. Now we're going to return the users where we take the state.users and now we need to map over them. So we're going to say each user, as long as user.id equals the action.changes.id, and if that's true, we are going to provide it the action.changes, or if it's false, we're just going to return the user. Okay, so now we're going to create a new, so map will create a new array, except we're going to map over each one. We're going to check if the user ID matches the action.changes ID. If it does, we need to pass in the new changes. If it does not, we need to pass in the existing user so that we don't overwrite anything. So that more or less is what we're going to do for submit edit. Remove user, a little more straightforward. Nothing too wild with that. So we need to return, so let's remove user is going to return the state. Now we need to say our users is equal to, oops, this is equal to users.state.filter. Now we're going to check over each user, and we are going to say user.id does not equal action.id. So basically what's going to happen now is, oops, did I mess this up? Users, oh, why are you mad? Users is not defined. Oh, I think I didn't need to do that. Users, state.users, that's what we need. I got that backwards. State.users.filter. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, cool. So now basically what we're going to do is we're going to say we're going to filter, which is creating a new array. We're going to filter over the state.users. For each user, we're going to check if the user ID does not match the action ID. If it does not, leave it. If it does, remove it. All right, cool. So that's that. Toggle edit, this one's pretty straightforward. We do need to still copy the state over. So toggle edit I'm going to check the live stream really quick. Sorry. Just make sure everything's looking good. Right on. Looks like everything is working. Everything's still connected up here. Hey, we have 3 concurrent viewers. That's pretty cool. I don't know what likes means. It just says 3 concurrent viewers and likes. I thought this was live. I don't know how it would get likes. That's okay. Alright, so let's keep on cruising. Okay. So now we're looking pretty good. We were going to do the toggle edit now. This one's pretty straightforward. All we need to do really is we need to spread in the state. So it's creating a copy of the current state. And then we just need to say editing is equal to the opposite of state.editing. Right? Because we just need to change the editing on there. So now we're just setting editing to a new value, which is the opposite of the current value. That's all there is to it. Nothing crazy. The reset form is pretty much the same thing as editing. So we need to return the current state. Oh, awesome! Thank you. I just saw that Kelly said she likes the YouTube video. Oh, it did show up. Awesome. All right. I guess that's one way to. See if you guys are there. I don't know the concurring viewers. I guess there's 3 people watching. That's pretty awesome. All right, let's keep cruising. Okay, so we need to spread in the state down here in the reset form. This is just going to basically say user form is now going to contain an object which is ID of null, name of empty string, and username of empty string, right? And that is basically resetting it back to this, its initial state. Because remember, when we give this initial state, as the application starts running, this is going to get filled in. So it is now going to be something different. So we need to remind ourselves to pass in that that reset, otherwise that content will stay in there. And if you went to click edit on another name after you just hit it on a different one, the previous name would still be in there. So that's what this reset form is doing for us. All right, now I think that is that it? I think that's it. Yep. Add user, edit user, submit edit, remove user, toggle edit, and reset form, and our default. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I think that is the Redux style context dealt with. Now, let's use it. Right on. So I think we can go ahead and why don't we create our user forms. So this is where we're going to start having some fun. We're going to start being able to use our context that we just made, and we can start grabbing it out of here. So this is the add user. So I have that pulled up on my notes over here. So first thing we need to do is we need to import React. We also need to import, oh, that's it, just React actually. From React. Now we need to import something. We need to import our new context. So we're going to go up a level. We're going to go into context. We're going to grab the user context.js. I do it this way because it now kind of gives us access to our methods or our functions. So we need to add. We don't need remove. I think we just need to add actually. This is add form. Let's check. I think all we need is the, we need the reset and the, reset and add form, add contact. So that and reset form. I do apologize. We did need to use, we are using a little bit of use state here. So we need to make sure we're importing that. Okay, cool. And I think that is one more. We need our we actually need our higher order function here, right? Cool. Let's call this context, and then let's call this UI, because we are also going to import a input field from. We're going to import an input field from ant_d. And for those of you that don't remember, ant_d is just a library that we can kind of like click into and use these components. And I think it's super simple to use and kind of makes your app look pretty elegant and gives you some nice effects on buttons and stuff. So highly recommend it. All right, so now we need to make our form, add form. That says from, add form. So add form, it's just a function, functional component. Now this is where we get to use our super new context. So let's go ahead and pull this in. So we're gonna say, I think I called it users if I'm not mistaken. Might have to check that. Dispatch, and we're going to pull that from our use. Oops, nope, what am I doing? We need to do the use user context. Yep, cool. Right, the next thing that we need to do is we do need to use some state, and I'm going to show you kind of how I decided to use it. So we need to use the state here. We are going to say new user, and we're going to say set new user. This is going to be use state, but what we're going to do is we're going to take in users.userForm. If you remember, this is the default form, the empty form that we passed in, right? So that's going to be the default state of new user. So if we console log new user in here, it would just be that little form. We also need to have two like handlers, so we're going to have a change handler. So handle change. This is going to take in the event, and this needs to, yeah, basically we just need to fill in that form. So I saw this really cool destructuring that Tania did in her tutorial, and I really liked it, so I'm going to borrow that. So name and value from e.target. Never seen this done before. I thought that was pretty slick, so I'm gonna stick with that. I really like it. So set new user is now going to equal the new, oh, that's not how you spell new user. It's going to take in the name and the value. All right, cool. So let's walk through what's going on here. So this is obviously going to be an object, so new user needs to be an object, and because we're passing this in, it will be. We need to copy what currently exists in the new user. So at the start it'll just be blank, and then we need to say the name that we're going to change, which would be either ID, name, or username. And this name is going to come in from the input field that we write in just a second. And then e.target.value, which would be the content within the input field. Right. And that's our change handler done. We also need to have another one, which is a handle submit. So let's write that. So handle submit equals, this needs e as well because we need to prevent default. So e.prevent default, right? And that's a method provided by, I think, JavaScript actually, to prevent our application from reloading the page, because that for some reason was what they wanted to do. So now I added just a little bit of like an error proofing, or I don't know, like a test. And if this doesn't pass, if this doesn't pass, I didn't want the form to be submitted. So basically, I'm doing a check to say if new user dot name or new user dot username. So I'm saying if these exist, both of them, we are going to now use our fancy dispatch. We're going to dispatch a method, and we are going to dispatch add user, right? Add user needs to take in a user, so we are going to give it this one here. So we are going to pass in new user. Cool, done. Now remember what I said, we have to also dispatch our form reset, so let's go ahead and get that done. So dispatch form reset. That doesn't need anything passed into it, so we can just kind of pass it right in. Reset form. Oh, see, did it to myself. Reset form. Cool. Right on, looking good. Moving in the right direction. Oh, before I forget, let's go ahead and do an export default of add form. Okay, cool. So I wanted to do this as an else as well. And we just want to go ahead and alert the user that no content was provided. Or let's say add info, please. I don't know. Maybe we'll change that, but that'll work for now. Alrighty, cool. Let's keep moving forward. Alright, so within here we need to go ahead and this is where we're going to start our return. So we need to return something. And what we're going to return is a form. Form. Alright, whatever. Form. Doesn't like me today. So let's go ahead and get this written up. So we're going to have a label. And this is going to be name. Now this is where we're going to use a input from Ant Design. So we're going to add a component called input. This is going to have a couple of types on it. So, or I'm sorry, a couple of attributes with it. So type is text. The name is name, which this is super important because this is going to pass directly into here. So if we don't have a name, it's going to check the name of the target, which this is the target. It's going to check the name of it. It's not going to be able to find anything, and we're going to get a big fat error. Or it's just not going to work at all. So that's that. We also need to provide a value in here. So this needs a value, and this is going to be new user dot name, right? Because that is the that is what we're going to be editing according to that label there. Yep, cool. And then on change, we need to run handle change. And that should be that dealt with. Let's just do this self-closing. Looks a little cleaner. Okay, cool. So we got that. Let's do another label. Oh yeah, that doesn't work. Label. Let's close that off. This is going to be username, right? Now this is just basically going to be the same thing. So let's make a copy of that. Let's type in username here. Let's do that, username, and handle changes. Cool. Hey Ashton. I'm sure you guys can see those. Yep, cool. It's looking good. We need one more thing inside of our form here, and that is going to be a button to submit. So let's do this. So input, oops, let's do that self-closing. Type equals submit. We need to give it a value of add new user. You know what, I guess we could do this. We could do this a little bit cooler. Let's do this with this up here. Let's pull in from ant.d, let's pull in a button. Let's do that. This might be cooler, I hope. Button type equals that, self-closing. Yeah, that's cool. Alright, so inside the form we need to use our onSubmit. So let's do this. We are going to pass in the event, because if you notice we need to pass in the event there. The event is going to be handle submit, and we need to pass in the e. I do have some styles in here. I'll probably mess with that a little bit later. We'll get this kind of built out and then we'll double back and style it how we want, and maybe I'll take some user input and we'll style it the way you guys think we should style it. Alright, cool. So that is basically that. That should be this whole thing dealt with now. What the heck is that? Yeah, right on. Okay, cool. So that all looks really good. We need to make essentially the same thing here in the edit form. So let's just go ahead and copy that whole thing and kind of change it around. So let me get my notes up. Right on. We're making progress. Alright. Cool. So now obviously this needs to become changes because we're now talking about an edit. So we're going to say set changes, right? This is still going to be the user form. Cool. Well, that is fine. We need to now, instead of saying set user, we need to say set changes. This needs to be changes. Oh, what did I say? Changes? Let's do changes. I said change here. Changes. Alright, so the changes are still going to be the same. Now this down here is going to change a little bit. So this is our handle submit. We need to change this to now dispatch a couple of different actions. So let's go ahead and get those imported first. So the actions that we need are going to be toggle edit. We are going to need submit edit. Where is it? Did I not write a submit edit? Uh-oh. I might be missing an action creator. Let me double back on this really quick. Toggle edit, submit edit. So there's 6 of these, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, wait. Oh, this needs to be submit edit. Sorry, I just had that mixed up. So if you're following along, make sure you change that. Cool. Submit edit. So that should be good now. So let's double back over here. So now we're going to say submit edit. Cool. Glad I caught that. We also need to take in the reset form. And I think that's it. Yep. Reset form, toggle edit, submit edit, submit edit, reset form. Yep. Okay. Cool. Oh, we also need that use user context as well. Okay, cool. So now we are going to dispatch a couple of actions. So first things first, we need to dispatch our toggle editing. So we need to say toggle edit, right? Next thing we need to dispatch is another one called submit edit, right? Because now we're submitting it. And finally, we need to dispatch a reset for the form. So dispatch another action, and that action is going to be form reset. All right. Oh, sorry. Reset form. It's going to be a long night, people. All right. Reset form. Okay. Cool. So now we need to still do our handle submit. Yes. We need to now take in the changes.name and the changes.username, and that's going to be populated by the by clicking the edit. Right on. We also need to add one more button down here, and this last button is going to be a dispatch for canceling. So on click, we need to dispatch 2 methods. Okay, so first things first, we need to dispatch the form, the reset form, And then we need to dispatch, dispatch the toggle editing, because now we're done editing. We're going back to false, which is our default state. And the value of this needs to be, well, I guess I'll just do it here. Looks kind of goofy. The value of this needs to be cancel. Alright, cool. So far everything's looking really good. So everything up here is basically the same. We do need to change this to say update user, right? Because this is finalizing the change. So let's do update user, right? We got to change this to edit form. We need to change this to edit form. All right. I think that is also the edit form dealt with. So I hope you guys are still following along. I don't know, I can see the chat, but I don't know if anybody's watching. But hopefully this is a pretty good example of how to use state, like global state, using context, which I haven't really seen done. I don't know, I'm sure that you can. I don't know if there's like a performance issue with it, so I'm hoping to like kind of do this a couple of times and maybe build up you know, a little bit more of a reputation and maybe ask people and see what they would recommend or prefer, but so far it's working pretty well. Alright. Oh, I did forget one thing. We do need to pass in the changes on our submit edit. So when we go to submit this, obviously it's going to be waiting for it's going to obviously be waiting for the changes to come in. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Kelly. I see you on there. That makes me happy. Right on. So let's go ahead and build our table. Our table is going to basically map over all of the users and just kind of display them, and it's also going to render a edit and a delete button. So let's kind of get this dialed in. All right. Okay. So we got that. We got the React imported already. We're also going to import again from our user context. Okay, so this needs to come in from the contexts / user context.js. Cool. Yep. So let's go ahead and pull in our use user context. I'm going to do that last, and then we need to bring in remove, which is going to be the delete, and then we need to add an edit user, which is going to be the edit button, which is going to pre-populate that form with the edit user, or the user that we're editing. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. And then we need to add a, not a remove, I'm sorry, we need to add the toggle edit. That's the final thing that we need. All right, cool. So once again, I like to label these. So this is the context, and then from under that, this is the table, or no, this is the, what am I trying to say? This is the UI, right? And we're going to just maybe importing a button, oops, button from ant d. All right, cool. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start our little table. So const table, and this is going to be our functional component. So table equals this, just empty so far. Now we get to use our really cool custom hook up there. So we're going to say const users, and then we need our dispatch from use. Oh no, sorry, I get that confused. I don't know why I keep doing that. Use user context. Cool. Custom hooks, right on. All right, so return. This is where we're going to start to build our little table. before I do that, let's go ahead and export default table. Okay, cool. So now we need a couple things. Let's see, is this going to let me do this? Nope. Okay. Table. Right on. Cool. Got our table started. So we need a table head. I'm probably going to rely on my notes quite a bit right now because this is a little bit confusing just to do on the fly. So we need a table row. We need a table header of name. We also need one for username. Yeah. Name, username. I don't know why in my notes I have actions, but I don't know if we need that, but we'll go ahead and put it anyway. I think that's just basically the edit or delete. Okay, cool. So we got that. We got our head. Now we're going to start the table body. So t body. Right up. Let me scroll this down a little bit. Now the table body is where we're going to actually map over our users that are coming in. So let's go ahead and get this started here. We are going to open this up, and we're going to say users dot users. That's a little confusing. Dot map. Might need to change that actually. We'll see. We'll see if that throws an issue. I don't think it will, but who knows? It actually might. Okay, so now we need to generate a new table row, right? The table row is going to have a key of user.id, right? So now we're looping over everything. We're taking a look at each user. Now we're saying for the user 1 ID, we're going to add that as the key on this table row. We're going to do the td. This is the table data. So for the start, we're going to say user.name, right? And then user. Oops, did I copy that? User.username. Okay, cool. And for the final one, this is actually going to be a little bit of a crazy one. It's going to be kind of a doozy because this one actually holds the two buttons, the edit and delete buttons. So let's go ahead and get that typed up. Okay, so here's our first button. Actually, I'm going to try and do this in line, maybe make it a little bit easier to read. This is going to have an on click, which is going to dispatch two of our actions. Okay, so on click, we need to dispatch the toggle editing, first and foremost. So let's go ahead and get this written up. Okay, alright, cool. I'm going to go ahead and just open it up like that and make it a little bit easier to read. So we're going to do two dispatches. Dispatch. We are going to dispatch our toggle edit. Oops, toggle edit. And we're going to dispatch our edit user, which is going to pre-populate that form for us. All right, cool. So that's the first one. We also need to tell this that it has a value of what do we want to call this? User, I think, or edit. Edit. Toggle edit user. We also need to pass something into edit user, which is going to be the current user that we're mapping over. So that is how we're going to get that information into that form. So that when the edit form pulls it in, we're actually pulling in the correct information from the actual user here. So that's kind of what that's got going on for it. All right, the other one is going to just be a delete. So we only really need one thing in there. So this is going to be value equals delete. And I hope I'm doing that right. I'll have to check in just a moment. I want to get the framework of this all typed up and then kind of work on that stuff in just a moment. So we don't need to toggle editing here. So let's go ahead and get rid of that. And then for this dispatch, all we really need to do is remove user, and we need to pass in the user.id. And that's going to start that check for us, and that is going to check against the current users. For every user that has this ID, we want it out. And that's how we get that delete to work. All right, cool. And then the value is delete. Yes. Okay, cool. I think that is it for our table. Got it exported there. Right on. Cool. Everything's looking really good. I think we're going to be pretty well set up to test this in just a minute. Yeah, this is looking really good. Okay, I'm sure I missed a couple things, and I'm sure we're going to have some errors, but the general idea is still there. So, all right, cool. Now the final thing that we need to do is we need to go ahead and set up our dashboard. So our dashboard already had a couple of things in here, right? But now what we need to do is we need to kind of bring in the components that we just made, and we need to get them rendered to the screen. So looks like we already have our add form and our edit form pulled in here. Now all we need to do is import our table from components slash user table.js. Okay, cool. Row, column, edit form, table, React. Yeah, exactly. Kelly says, I hate testing. Yes, I do too. That's where we do the most learning, though. That's what I'm holding out for. That's when we're going to do the most learning. The final thing that we need to do in here is we need to import our custom hook. So we need to import our use user context from our contexts slash user context.js. Hope that's spelled right. Yep, looks like it. Okay, cool. So we got that going on. Now we need to conditionally render whether we want the edit form or the add form. And we're going to do this by checking that global state, and we're going to check if editing is true or if editing is false. If editing is true, we want to show the user form. If editing is false, then we want to show the add form. So this is how I did this. I think we might clean this up in just a minute, but let's go ahead and say users. Oh, wait, I'm skipping ahead. We need to do one thing first. We need to set our users, actually. So users and then dispatch. I don't think we need a dispatch. No, we don't need a dispatch, so let's go ahead and skip that, but we do need to use our use user context. This is our custom hook, remember. Cool, so we got that. So we got our use user context. So now we have users dot editing, right? Because we're trying to check if they're editing. If this is true, we want to render the edit form. Otherwise, we want to do the add form. Right on. Cool. So if users.editing is true, we're going to do edit form. If it's false, we're going to do the add form, right? Not bad. So that's how we're going to conditionally render those two forms. And remember that global state is also holding on to that value for us, the true or false. And then down here, super simple. All we need to do is render in our table. Probably the easiest thing we're going to do tonight. Yeah, so that's everything dealt with, it looks like. We do have one final thing that we need to do. We need to import our welcome into the index. So we're going to import into the index. We have a couple things that we need to do in here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. First things first, we do need to, let's see, we need to get our provider. That's what we need to do. So we're going to import our provider from that same context file that we made. So we need to do user provider from, and this is from our context. Oops, from our contexts, user context.js, right? There's our user provider. We also need to import the two functions that we're going to, or the two components, the layout view components that we're going to render inside of the index.js. So we need to import our dashboard from our views dashboard. I like to be explicit, so that's JSX. And we need to import our welcome from views welcome.jsx. All right, cool. So we got those three. Right on. And I think that's it, actually. Let's go ahead and be a little bit more explicit with this. Let's say these are the views, and then let's say this is the context. All right, cool. We do need to import one thing since we are using ant.d. We actually need to import our styles. So ant.d dist, and then we need ant.d.css. All right, cool. So that's going to give the magic to all of our components. Basically what that's doing is that's reaching into the root here, and it's going into the dist folder and then into the ant.d.css. Finally, we have the app. So what we need to do inside of here, it's pretty straightforward, but can be a little bit confusing. But what we're going to do now is we're going to pull in our provider first and foremost. So what our provider is going to do is going to give everything inside of here access to our user context. So all of that stuff that we wrote, all the applications that are being pulled in, everything is being pulled in to the views, and then from the views it's being pulled into the components. My dog has joined us. Hello. Hello, little one. Go lay down. All right. She's my supervisor. I gotta make sure I'm on my P's and Q's now. So what I did was I just kind of went ahead and did some sections in here, just so I can give myself a little bit more control. So this is section 1. This is going to be the app. The app is going to house our welcome message. Great, cool. And then inside of the app we're going to have another section, and this ID is going to be our content, or I'll just call it dashboard. And hopefully this gives me a little bit more access to it when we start styling. So now the final thing that we need to render in here is our dashboard. Cool. Right on. So now we have our user provider gone on. The user provider is providing the context to welcome and dashboard. So everything in between here now has access to the global state that we wrote. So all of this stuff now has access to everything that it needs. All right. So let me do a quick once over, make sure we got everything, and then we will test this bad boy live and kind of see what we're working with. I imagine it's going to be a little bit ugly, and we'll probably need to throw some styles on here. But that's okay. We'll make that happen. I'll probably just do some basic inline styling, nothing like too wild. Alright, let's give it a test. I'm excited. I hope this works. If anybody's still watching, I hope you're excited too. Alright, let's see that big red error. If I wrote it without an error, I'm going to be very surprised. You can do it, Code Sandbox. Go! Looks like we have 2 console logs. Oh no! Okay. Users.editing. What did I call this? Users. Bringing it in from use user context. Let me break this out here, actually, make it a little bit easier to see. Okay, figure out what's going on here. Now it's time for the debugging. to commence. Okay, so users.editing. So let me double back, let me check my notes here, let me see if I just missed something obvious. Context.editing, context, use, context. I think I might have forgot something in the context here. Export const. Exports. It's always the fun part. So we're doing some debugging. User provider, user reducer, user data. Oh, maybe we just called it user. That's probably why. So let's just call it users and users. There it goes. It worked. We got the Quokka, which is the cutest ever. We have Clara, which is the cutest poopy. Okay, apparently that was not the right thing for Aunt D. So let me figure that out really quick because that looks crazy. Oops, that's not right. Ant design. I gotta figure out how to actually put the text in there. Where'd the button go? So here's our button component. We are going to check in here. Oh, they actually have it typed in. Can we not? Oh, I might not be able to actually do it in a one-liner. Okay, that's all right. We'll change that up. Oh, that's too bad. Seems like they could just adopt that and just be able to kind of plug it in and have have you be able to type in a value right then and there. Maybe there is a way to do it. I don't know. But for these purposes, we'll just go ahead and change that. So we need to go into our user table. Where are our two buttons? Right here. We can't do the self-closing, and then we're going to say delete, and then we are going to close it. Nothing too crazy. And then we can just go ahead and get rid of this because we don't need that now. So do that. This is edit. Let's go ahead and close it. Wow, it's already looking better. All right. Oops, that looks goofy. Let's do this in a span. There we go. A little bit better. Span. And this is going to be delete. Cool. This form looks awful. It's all bunched up, crunched together. We'll add some styles to it and clean that up before we disband. But we are at the home stretch, peeps. So let's go ahead and save this. Let's go ahead and jump over to our edit form. We could not do it this way. And we could not do it this way. Alright, so let's close that. This is going to now have a span, which is going to say update. Oh, I think I deleted the wrong thing. I need to delete that. Let's copy this first. Salvage what we can. Alright, cool. So there's that. Let's go ahead and start our span. Let's go ahead and give it that. We'll go ahead and close the button. Alright, cool. And then down here we need to do the same thing, and this button is going to be a cancel though. So let's do span cancel. Alright, and then we need to close this off as button. And fingers crossed. Nope, everything's looking good, but we just need to do that same thing on add form. Alright. So let's copy this, add new user, span, add new user, and then we're going to close off our button. Save that. Oh, wow. Look at that, people. It is majestic. Now let's test our functions, alright? So this is where the rubber meets the road, obviously. We built this CRUD application. We should be able to do some CRUD stuff with it. So let's start here by testing a, I don't know, just test it, see what happens. It's not working. Okay, so, oh, delete is working. Is edit working? Edit is working. Let's check cancel. Cool, cancel's working too. So let's edit it again. Let's just make a change and see if the update, I have no idea how to spell this. Is that how you spell that? Whatever. See if the update is working. Okay, so something's going on here. So our add and our update are not working properly. Let's check the console, see what's going on. Oh, we're getting some errors here. Oh, this is this is that goofy. I was telling you guys that Aunt D doesn't like that, so that's okay. Oh, what are you mad about? It says undetermined JSX content cannot read property editing of undefined. Okay, that's fine. We need to change that. Cannot read property editing of undefined. Okay, so that's all of those. But what is this? Oh, user is not defined in user context. Okay, let's see here. I might have just changed that. Let me double back on this really quick, and let me just change that back to user so we don't have to kind of dig through too much. So let's just call this user. Let's call this user, and then on dashboard, we just need to say user. User.editing, right. User form is undefined. Oh no, we can't do that. Okay, 1 second. Let me problem solve here. Hey, stop it. Hey, listen up. Listen up. Sorry, she gotta make herself known, you know. Okay, so users, right on, so we got all that. Oh, okay, sorry, Kelly, I see, I look like I gave you a anxiety attack there. I'm sorry. I bet you everybody's like punching the screen right now. Oops, not that. Okay, so let's see here. We are calling user form. Let me get myself together here. Create context, user. Let's see. Let's try and go to the top here. Okay, cannot read property of on dashboard JSX 47. Dashboard JSX 47 users. Use user context. Use user context. Coming in from user context. Okay. Cool. That should be fine. What are you mad about? Cannot read property editing of undefined. Undefined equals true. Okay, let's see here. What is going on? Why are you not happy? User form, state.editing. Okay, that must be in the toggle edit, maybe? Because we didn't get that error. Let's comment this out really quick, and let's reload the page and see if it gives us that error. There's our weird Aunt D stuff. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so let's save that. Okay, so it is reading it the first time. So what that kind of tells me is when we did that dispatch is kind of doing something. So I'm going to double back and check the dispatches and just kind of make sure that everything is written in here properly. Okay, Okay, so we have, let's start with the action creators and just kind of double over those. We should be fine. Yes, remove user ID. I'll pull my notes back up just in case. So submit edit, remove user takes in an ID, toggle edit doesn't do anything except toggle the edit, and this all looks proper. Alright, so let's check down here. Let's see what's going on down in this bit. So we have our action.user.id, yes. State.users.length, +1, yes. We're copying in the state, users, state.users, action.user, yes. Alright, so edit user. Okay, so we're going to toggle the edit, yes, we're doing that. We are going to copy the state, we're going to say user form is id, action.id, action.name, action.username. Yes. Submit edit. Toggle edit return state users state.user. Yep, that looks good. Form, alright, let's do remove user. Okay, we're going to copy the state. We're going to check the users. We're going to do state.users.filter, creating a new array. Yes, that looks right. Form, reset form, state user form, ID null, blah blah blah. Yep. Okay, cool. User data, users, user provider. Let's see here. This all seems to be working. This is called users, user content, create context. Yes. Passing in the props. Put the initial state in there. Yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so let's check where the error was happening. Okay, so we had an error happen when we tried to add a user, right? Okay, so actually just nothing is happening. Why is that? It might mean this is not connected up properly. So add form, we're going to take a look, or maybe we're not passing anything in. Nope, new user, dispatch, new user, user context, use user context, yes, add user, reset form, add user is new user, dispatch reset form, handle submit, e equals handle submit. So let's see here. Why are we having an issue? Or is this re-rendering? It's showing us the issue up here. No, just nothing is happening. Okay, why is that? Let's refresh the page and see if it actually is. Let's see. Yeah, super weird. Okay, but let's see if the edit works now. Yes, edit does work. Okay, poopy. Let's see if update user works now. No, it does not. Okay, so there's something going on with maybe our action creator. So let's see here, user context. Maybe I have this written wrong. So let's see, add user. It's passing in user. Action.user, yes. Action.type. add user, add user. Add user, action.user ID. We're returning the state, comma, the users as a new array where we're copying in state.users. We're adding in action.user. Yeah, that's right there. Okay. And then toggle edit. Or I'm sorry, submit edit. Okay, so we're doing return state. You know what? I wonder if it's something to do with the buttons. Maybe I have the buttons set up wrong. Or no, because it would be the form submit. Let me just change this back to, maybe this is why I had this way. Input, and then input. Hold on, I think I have it. I have it a little bit different over here. Yeah, okay. Let's do it back with the I think it's just not submitting our form when we use that button component. So we're going to try it like this and see if this works. Right, cool. So there's that, and then our edit form. It looks like everything should be working. The only thing was this submit, I think. And then we'll do update user. Okay, let's save that. And then let's give this a refresh. Yes, there it is. It's working. Okay, so now let's try the edit. So cutie poopy. Let's change it to cutie poopy with a Y, because she is kind of poopy. And there we go, cutie poopy with the Y. And then we can still delete all of them. And we have our form. So Clara, test. There we go. So there's our create, our read, our update, and our delete. So yeah, that's that. I'm going to go ahead and probably stop the live stream here. What I'm going to probably do though is I'm going to keep doing these live streams because I want to get this down like memorization status. So I'll probably do another live stream where we'll probably build the same thing and just kind of change it up a little bit, because this is kind of the basis of like all web applications and all software engineering, is kind of making these CRUD applications. I mean, the applications of this are just totally endless. But yeah, for now, I think everything looks good. Everything works. You guys, I will provide a link to this in the channel so that you guys can take a look at it yourselves. And yeah, I hope you join me next time. We'll do the same thing again, maybe clean it up, maybe do some styles in there. But yeah, this is my first live stream. I hope it was okay. I hope it was fun. I don't know if anybody's still listening or watching. But yeah, I can't wait to see your guys' input, and hopefully you guys enjoy the video. If you have any questions or comments, please hit me up on Twitter at ccvinny, or you can leave some comments at on the YouTube channel. And yeah, make sure to subscribe if you guys want to see some more. But other than that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I will see you guys next time. Take care.